Express was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But they didn't do anything, and then that was it. He joined the WWF after that. I had no idea that this was in 1990.
So I did know this because I remember him from the Royal Rumble.
Right, exactly. I was just about to say, in 1991, he was the number 17th entrant in the Royal Rumble. It was in there for like 26 minutes.
Yeah, he was in there for a long time.
But then
beautiful young blonde man.
But then his dad was sick, and he had to go take care of him.
Well, good for him for taking a break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the Rick Moranis of pro wrestling, but he came back.
Yeah, he did come back. In 1992, actually, he came back to WCW.
Not long.
And it was a clean-cut baby face, and was in a couple tag teams. He actually formed a tag team with Ricky Steamboat, also with no, actually during that time frame, this was after that, but during that time frame, he won the tag titles with Ricky Steamboat. They won both the NWA and WCW World Tag Titles.
Were they not the same?
Those were two different things.
There were two different titles?
At that time frame. And then they had a really big feud with the Hollywood Blondes for a little while, too.
God, I love that tag team.
And also, can you imagine seeing a freaking feud between Brian Pillman, Steve Austin, Ricky Steamboat, and Shane Douglas?
In
like,
their
all
prime.
In their fucking primes.
In their prime.
Yeah, like...
Some people might be like, you know what, Shane Taylor not Shane Taylor, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Shane Douglas in ECW was his prime. Incorrect. He was good, but he wasn't in his prime.
I don't know. I actually think early ECW, that was when he was in his prime, like 94 to 96.
I can see that.
So then, like, weirdly, in 93, he leaves for Eastern Championship Wrestling, like, which is not a very big, like, promotion at this point.
No.
You know, like, in 90...
It's just closer to home.
Yeah, that might be it, and maybe he was trying... I bet he was trying to angle to get back with the WWF, because, like, honestly, even in 92, 93, like, the WWF was still, like, top dog.
Right.
So
that was around the steroid scandal, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And so maybe he was like, well, let's let that bad boy cool off for a little bit before we get over there. He's in Eastern Championship Wrestling. He does that for a little while. Becomes like, this is when he becomes the franchise.
Right.
He becomes the franchise player. He's a arrogant heel. And
is this when the promo comes in that we were talking about last time?
It's around the same time, yes. At that time, ECW was a member of the NWA, and then they pulled out. The WCW pulled out of the NWA. They had to do a world title. We talked about all that the other day. Yes, around this time, he's becoming the franchise. Throws the belt down. Quickly establishes ECW as like an upstart promotion that is trying to
they can all
come
kiss
for things.
My ass. It's a Vince McMahon, really, but whatever.
So he does that. He's in the triple threat. Starts the triple threat with the old Dean Malenko and He Who Shall Not Be Named, in my opinion.
Who? Chris Benoit?
Chris Benoit.
Can you not separate
Chris
things?
Benoit.
Are you? So in actuality, you're telling me
bag.
O.J. Simpson is not a great football player, or was
he
not
was
a great
football player.
Okay,
sure,
so you can
but
separate
that was a
things.
legitimate sporting competition.
Are you saying a pro wrestling? So there's
OJ. You know what? I don't really talk about OJ either. So this is not really one of the
okay.
same.
Fine.
Anyway, he's with that shitbag. I was trying to not call him a shitbag because I know
Chris
that's your
Benoit.
big thing. But anyway, I fucking hate Chris Benoit. You heard it here first.
You can go ahead.
Piece of shit.
He's not going to say anything.
He's not, because he's fucking dead, because he killed himself like a fucking dumbass.
I think there's a conspiracy all around.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, he starts the triple threat with these guys. They all leave because they're like, hey, let's go to WCW. At this point, he comes to the WWF. Then he's Dean Douglas. Does all his Dean Douglas shit. Gets the Click mad at him.
Shocker.
I don't know how hard that was. It seems
I don't
like
think
it was
it'd be
pretty
very-
easy to
yeah,
get the
super
Click mad.
easy.
And not even the Click. Like, it's almost like if you got Shawn Michaels mad.
No, if you pissed off Shawn, or if you pissed off X-Pac or Scott Hall,
I was about to say,
that's
like,
what it
I feel like if Kevin Nash and Triple H were both like, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I did hear Nash was a bit of a bully, but he's he's almost 7 foot tall guy. What do you expect to happen?
That reminds me of Nash. He won the IC title.
That was when
kind of
Shawn. Yeah, he got handed it. That was when Shawn. Was that when he got beat up by the Marines?
Okay.
One of the times
how many
Shawn
times has
blacked
Shawn Michaels,
out.
Yeah, how many
and doesn't
times has
remember
Shawn Michaels
things.
given up a title because of?
That's fine, but
non-legit
somehow
reason.
never mind,
He
got handed the title. And
handed the title.
He lost it immediately, didn't he?
Did to
Yes.
Razor Ramon. Again,
Another member of the Clique.
He pissed off the Clique pretty damn quick, and then was just apparently like soured on the whole thing. And
wow, what a shock!
yeah, and then he was like, "I'm out of here," and They were both, him and Vince were finally like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. Went to ECW, did the whole franchise thing again. Did a new triple threat with Chris Candido and eventually Bam Bam Bigelow. Oh. He comes back to WCW in the late 90s. He's in ECW again while they're getting hardcore TVs, getting more popular in his ECW. So he is still the franchise of ECW, still very much involved in the title picture. In fact, I'm pretty sure that he lost he lost the title for the last time to Taz, the next franchise player of ECW. Did he? Yeah, he did. It says right here. He's guilty as charged. 99. He lost the ECW World Heavyweight Championship to Taz.
Huh.
And that was his longest one too. So he put Taz over and made Taz the next big star of ECW.
Right.
Came to WCW, started shockingly came to WCW, I might add, because from what he hates Ric Flair.
Yeah, I've heard that for the longest time him and Flair are not fans of each other.
So he comes back, which I remember watching this at the time, and I remember being very shocked watching Nitro, being like, "What the whoa, fucking Shane Douglas is here. This is fucking crazy." So he's in WCW. He starts the Revolution with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and Perry Saturn, and who else was in the Revolution? Dean Malenko. Eddie Guerrero was in all kinds of other things.
LWO, I'm sure at the time.
I don't know if it was LWO or if it was.
I think at that point everybody was like, "Hey, you're in a
stable."
Right?
Yeah, it kind of felt like WCW in the late '90s. Everyone had to be in a stable, but they had a lot of fucking dudes. So I guess I get it.
Yeah.
He does this thing in ECW, wins the tag titles, I believe, at one point, and also won the U.S. title. And then he does Extreme Pro Wrestling and does some TNA stuff. But after that, he really is just on the indies after that. He doesn't do a whole lot after that. I enjoyed Shane Douglas's work.
He popped up tried to pop up randomly at a WWE show, and it did not work. They kind of bye-bye, get out the building.
Yeah. I liked Shane Douglas.
I loved his mic work. I'm not going to lie
to you. One of the, I agree completely. Yeah. He was one of the best stickmen in the business. I would say he's up there as far as his intensity as a heel on the mic with Kurt Hennig.
I could see that. He was also one of the... So I don't think he was the first guy ever to be called the franchise, but in my mind, he was the guy to be called the franchise. So, I've heard people like Jay Lethal be called the franchise later, and kind of, I guess you could see John Cena, but it's just the guy of that company.
Yeah.
But at that time, he was the one who put the moniker on himself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So, I loved it. And then I loved a triple threat, too. So I was just a fan all the way around.
I'm doing the symbol right now. You can't see it, but I'm doing the symbol right now.
Which it kind of looks like an asshole from what some people say. But you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. Yeah.
So who else we got? Who else we talking about that's tried to take on the WWE and...
J-E, ha-ha, double F, J-A, ha-ha, double R-E, double T, Jeff Jarrett, baby.
Owner of 950 titles.
Jesus, we're getting into it. So he is a 6 foot, 230-pound wrestler from Nashville,
130?
Tennessee. 230. I'm
okay,
so sorry. There's no way he was 130. No. Born July 14th, 1967. So if you share that birthday, congratulations. There's a lot of titles here: AAA, TNA, Continental. USWA, WCW, WWE,
If his daddy owned it, he had a title.
Sorry, not WWE, WWF, only WWF titles. He is a member of 2 Hall of Fames, the WWE Hall of Fame in 2018 and the TNA in 2015. He also did kind of start the company, but we'll get into it. Jeff Jarrett is a third-generation wrestler. His dad, Jerry Jarrett, which if you look at him, wouldn't imagine he was a wrestler, but in fact he was. And his grandfather on his daddy's side, Eddie Marland, they were wrestlers, and he's also a third-generation promoter. His dad, obviously, and his grandmother, Christine, on his mother's side. He started as a referee in his daddy's Continental Wrestling Association. He then started being trained by Tojo Yamamoto, and then he made his in-ring debut at the age of 18 on April 6, 1986, against Tony Folk, which, if you look that name up, put it in a Google machine, there's a lot of history behind there. And then he would go on to... So Jerry, his dad, would go on to purchase World Class Championship Wrestling, which would then merge with Continental and become the
USWA.
United States Wrestling Association. And, of course, Jeff Jarrett would go on to win numerous championships in that company. He would then sign with WWF in 1993, and his gimmick was a country singer, but before that he worked with WWF because WWF and USWA had a kind of working relationship in the early 90s.
It was sort of like a development. I would say
it was early development, if anything.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, also Jerry Lawler had quite a bit to do with the USWA as well. So, and then he would go on to win the Intercontinental title in the 1993 as well. But earlier in 1993, those beautiful vignettes came around where we knew who JEFF JARRETT really is. And those vignettes, I don't think they do those anymore for guys, and I really think some of those guys really need it.
They do.
Not like the Lars Sullivan,
like used to.
Yeah, they just don't do them as well as they do anymore. So in October 1996, he joined the WCW. He was only there a year. Would win the U.S. Championship, be part of the Four Horsemen, then get kicked out of the Four Horsemen by Steve Mongo McMichael.
Ugh, can you imagine getting kicked out of the Four Horsemen by that guy?
I'd be like, you're allowing that guy to kick me out of this stable? Okay, that shows how shitty this company is. But we'll get to that later.
Why don't you put Kevin Sullivan on? Crap, you did.
That didn't work. Weird. So back in October of 97, he returned to WWF during a fun NWA invasion angle.
Where he was the North American champion.
Where he beat one Barry the Stalker Windham and then was stripped of said title when he left the stable, and then that title went back to Barry Windham somehow. So then he would go on to his country singer gimmick where he had Tennessee Lee, which, of course, was Colonel Rob Parker, if anybody else knows him. And then he had the Godwins, known as Southern Justice.
Yeah, they were like his bodyguards.
Yeah, he was his bodyguards. Terrible. So they would go on to feud with DX, which was whatever DX was at the time. And then he had lost a hair versus hair match against X-Pac. And then he would align himself. He cleared the calendar. He cleared his stables. He's like, you know what, everybody get out of here. You know who I want? I want Deborah McMichael next to me, and I want Owen Hart on the other side.
You know who I want? The guy's wife who kicked me out of the Horsemen. Can I get him,
in
please?
Another company, yes. Is there any way she's available, right?
I'd never thought about it.
So then he would go on to he would go on to win the WWF Tag Team Championships with Owen Hart. They would go on to lose it to X-Pac and Kane.
And he got really close to Owen during that time.
He really,
from what I understand.
He did. Well, from what I heard, they actually traveled together.
Yeah.
So that's how the tag team formed. And then unfortunately, Owen passed, and then he went on to win the Intercontinental title from the person that Owen Hart was probably going to win the Intercontinental title from, which is the Godfather. And then he would go on, went on this misogynistic kick and started slapping everybody that was a woman in a figure four, including Cindy Margolis. That's right, late 90s fans. If you want to go look up anything on the internet tonight, go look up Cindy Margolis.
Actually, maybe look it up.
Maybe there's nothing really. It's not as great as you would imagine it would be. Anyway, he would then go on to feud with Chyna, which would be his last feud in WWF for quite a while.
I'm pretty sure that's his last feud ever.
In WWF?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he's back now, but he's not a wrestler.
Oh, he feuded with Elias for a little bit.
I guess that's fair.
All right.
He did feud with Elias. Okay,
but,
I'll give
so his contract did run out 2 days before the event actually went down.
And he was like, give me more money.
Exactly. $300K.
The way Jeff Jarrett tells it, though, he says, give me the money you owe me.
Well, he says they still owe him money.
Really?
Well, I don't think that's the case anymore, considering he's part of the payroll again.
I mean, even if they did, he was like, it's fine.
That's fine. You're putting me in the Hall of Fame?
I'm going to... Okay, yes.
And you're giving me a job? All right.
Water under the bridge, Vince.
Cool.
I'll never start another company to compete against you.
So then he returns to WCW in October of 1999. He would then go on to win the U.S. Championship, reform the NWO, which I don't know how somebody
With Bret Hart.
And the Outsiders.
With some members of the NWO and Bret Hart.
I love how somebody who was never started the NWO can reform the NWO.
Yeah, he was like, guys, I'm getting the band back together. You were never in it.
You were literally not even part of this.
You were
But this is when he was doing the slap nuts thing, so that was hilarious.
I loved
slap nuts.
I love late 90s.
It was
Jeff
great.
Jarrett.
I was reading some of this. I'm like, I need to go back and watch.
Right,
them.
I said the same thing. I was like, man, Jeff Jarrett was so